Hello, hopeless romantics. You lovesick dreamers. This is Matrimony Mony, an epic love podcast. And my name is Zach, and I'm joined by my beautiful girlfriend, Brittany.
Hello, hello. And here, we don't just view love as a verb. Weddings are our game, and becoming love is our goal. But what is love? Baby, don't hurt me no more? Or maybe I'd like a good spanking or two.
I like that. At any rate, we would like to hold up a torch for hopeless romanticism in a world in which hopeless romanticism feels all but dead. So our intention here is to see through the veil of illusion and to rediscover the magic of a world pregnant with true love.
Maybe love is something quite more spectacular than our mind can even grasp. Maybe it's only the game a heart could play. Here, we'll take you on our path to redefine love. So let's get weird.
Okay, so we are going to come out of the gates swinging on episode 3. And this one is entitled Alien Love. And really quickly, I would like to do a little synopsis for our audience. I think as a relationship podcast, this one might seem a bit unorthodox for what people would expect.
Yeah. I mean, you guys, we do weddings, so we're about to get into aliens. It's like, I know, it's like, oh my God, how are these two things related? I promise you, you're about to find out.
This is going to be a pretty in-depth episode that I think everyone's going to like. Well, I'm not going to go that far, but it's going to be something. You should
like it, or something's wrong with you. That's what he means.
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to go with that. So real quick, though, I'm going to do a little rundown for everyone in podcast land of sort of the, don't call it UFO, call it UAP phenomenon that sort of has a history starting from Roswell.
Director of Air Force Intelligence, General John Samford.
I believe it was in the late 40s.
1947. We have received and analyzed between 1 and 2,000 reports.
This whole culture of
have come to us from all kinds of sources.
Activity in the government.
Of this great mass of reports, we have been able
and then
adequately to explain
researchers
the great bulk
of the.
However, there have been a certain percentage of this volume of reports
alien UFO phenomenon
that have been made by credible observers
and
of relatively incredible things.
All that was for a very long time kind of regarded as laughable by like credible mainstream news. And there's been a shift within the last few years, honestly, and it's...
In 2007, the most powerful man in the Senate, Majority Leader Harry Reid, persuaded 2 colleagues, Senators Ted Stevens and Daniel Inouye, to secretly allocate millions in Defense Department funds to investigate UFOs.
Because of the pandemic and because of a lot of big...
The covert program operated from the tail end of the Bush presidency
sort of
through the Obama administration and into Donald Trump's first year in office.
Sort of world events that have distracted us. It's weirdly...
In December of 2017, the lid blew off.
Gone unnoticed by most people.
Yeah, it's interesting because Zach's really passionate about this.
At long last, the government was admitting a modern-day program to investigate UFOs and released startling official evidence, including videotapes from the cockpits of military aircraft.
This is like a real coming out of the closet moment.
One of the key authors of the Times story was investigative journalist and best-selling author Leslie
It was
Kean.
totally off my radar.
She went to Washington to meet with Luis Elizondo,
When I met
who had
Zach.
just resigned from his position as head of the secret Pentagon UFO program.
Just a year ago.
Yeah,
I was invited to this meeting. They wanted me to meet Mr. Elizondo to see what could
a
happen.
year ago.
Objects that are moving so fast, and yet we don't see an ionization trail in the air, and you don't hear a sonic boom.
About to be 1 year.
How is that possible? Another one is...
Yep.
Elizondo's colleagues took her aside to reveal some extraordinary documentation related to the program.
What happened was
I wasn't allowed to take anything with me.
in 2017, David Fravor, he was I believe he was a Navy
Yeah,
pilot.
he was high up in the military.
He had a wild experience, and he's been a very recent, incredibly credible sort of
I knew
source.
this was breaking news for the front page of the New York Times.
Him, along with a bunch of other pilots, that saw these like really wild tic-tac UFOs over the ocean off of California.
They look like freaking Tic
My
Tacs.
co-author, Ralph Blumenthal, and I set up a meeting with Mark Mazzetti and said we had this explosive story.
It's so cute.
Sat down with him in the New York office of the New York Times, and we brought in all the documents. These are the videos.
They're like
of the
little Tic Tacs that you just want to
documents
suck on
of
them.
the program. And here's what they've studied, and here's what they've learned, and here's a letter from Harry Reid about the program.
They're just like little candies everywhere.
The important thing here is before we just lose everyone, this story was covered by the New York Times.
Christopher Mellon managed to obtain the tapes from the Pentagon and chose the New York Times to break the story.
I received the videos, the now famous videos in the Pentagon parking lot.
It went from being something that was laughed at to something that's being considered by like credible intellectuals, which is wild. And so anyway, there was this piece written, what the New York Times does, people kind of like can't not look at.
Yeah, you got to get with it or get out.
Yeah, come on, people. New York Times.
On this small ATIP program, and the real story in my mind at least should have been, these things are real, they're here, this is happening now.
Shortly after that, the government kind of starts admitting that there are kind of like unexplained phenomena that ends up sort of culminating in there's been a hearing in the government about this phenomenon. And then most recently, like very credible intellectuals such as Michio Kaku, who's I believe he's like a physicist, but like a well-regarded intellectual, Michio Kaku, and then also Sam Harris.
So I don't know if you've been on the receiving end of recent rumors about our conversation about UFOs very likely changing in the near term, right? But there was just a Washington Post article and a New Yorker article, and I've received some private outreach, and perhaps you have. I know other people in our orbit have people who are claiming that the government has known much more about UFOs than they have let on until now, and this conversation is about to become more prominent. And it's not going to be whatever, whoever's left standing when the music stops. It's not going to be a comfortable position to be in as a super rigorous scientific skeptic saying there's no there, who's been saying there's no there for the last 75 years, right? The short version is it sounds like the Office of Naval Intelligence and the Pentagon are very likely to say to Congress at some point in the not too distant future that we have evidence that there is technology flying around here that seems like it can't possibly be of human origin, right? Now, I don't know what I'm going to do with that kind of disclosure, right? Maybe it's going to be nothing, no follow-on conversation to really have, but that is such a powerfully strange circumstance to be in, right? I mean, it's just, what are we going to do with that? If in fact that's what happens, right? If in fact the considered opinion, despite the embarrassment it causes them, of the U.S. government, of all of our intelligence, all of the relevant intelligence services, is that this isn't a hoax. There's too much data to suggest that it's a hoax. We've got too much radar imagery. There's too much satellite data, whatever data they actually have. There's too much of it. All we can say now is something's going on, and there's no way it's the Chinese or the Russians or anyone else's technology. That should arrest our attention, collectively to a degree that nothing in our lifetime has.
And then I think most interesting is all the experiencers that sort of after this happened, I went down a rabbit hole in 2020 along with a spiritual Kundalini awakening experience in which we may get into this at some later date, but I went down this whole rabbit hole after I had a spiritual kind of experience and kind of got in touch with my higher self, and I sort of had these downloads, let's say, that a lot of this stuff is true. And I kind of remembered an experience I had like 10 to 15 years prior that I just regarded kind of as a weird lucid dream, but it was interaction with a gray / shadow being type thing, and it was sort of, at least for me, brought to my attention that there was something actually there. And so then I went down the rabbit hole of all these kind of thinkers about the experiencer phenomenon that sort of had a much more abstract way of regarding the whole thing. Like, are these aliens? Are these beings that have something to do with us being here, that have always been with us? Are they interdimensional beings? Are they, and I think the most interesting minds sort of regard the alien phenomena as something potentially more about parallel dimensions that kind of coexist here. And particularly Chris Bledsoe is a very interesting person who's had a lifelong sort of experience with UFOs and alien phenomena. Alien in quotes, by the way. We don't know what this is. But anyway, so that's the synopsis. There's like a really credible thing that's happening that has shifted in our culture about this phenomenon. And that's kind of like the setup. And then I think another interesting thing that happened with Brittany and I, so Brittany kind of came to this without any, like she said, any sort of...
Yeah, sorry. I was paying attention while you were talking. This is weird. As you were talking about the gray, I have to ask you a question really quick. It's very random.
Sure.
Have you heard any, and I'll give you a background, listener people, on me. I am the outsider that, I saw aliens in movies. I still call them aliens, so I wouldn't be, the alien intellectuals probably wouldn't like me very much. Not PC. But right now I'm picking up on, is there anything that's been documented that you know of, since this is kind of something you're into, about playing with time?
Yeah.
That they've messed with time?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I'm tapping in. So what I'm getting is your particular one that you had, the gray. Mm-hmm. It's been a guardian over your father and you. And
interesting.
And Zach has this thing with time. They've been playing with the time with you. And it's a training exercise to deprogram and realize life. Sorry, my heart's racing.
I'm getting goosebumps.
It's a very powerful energy. I know this is weird, guys. I'm really my heart chakra center's fluidy feeling and very fuzzy. So it's very powerful, whatever this being is. But, It's trying to make you comfortable, remove you from this world. to make you feel more at home where you've been. And so I got to pull out of this energy. It's too high. It's like starting to make me flush. Sorry.
No, you're okay. So Brittany's very sensitive to, so this is a nice little segue, honestly. One thing that I wanted to mention that's, I think, important is that Brittany has kind of started also a psychedelic journey that sort of I've been a part of. I've had a longer history with psychedelics.
He popped my cherry.
I popped her plant medicine cherry. And so she's been doing plant medicine rituals with me, psilocybin primarily. And really what happened was, and there are many, many synchronicities involved in this story, but she had, after one of the experiences...
It was a few days after.
Yeah. She was still glowing from the psychedelic experience.
Yeah, I was super tired that night. And let me backtrack just a little bit. And when Zach and I first met really quick, and then I'm going to get into my experience I had, coming from a background of not being interested, knowing nothing about ETs, nothing about these higher beings, really outside of mainstream. And when I met Zach, I knew it was super important to him. And he, like, when we were dating, he would like poke his foot in to see if it was like okay, to see if I'd be into it. I wouldn't be like, oh my God, aliens? Really? Oh my God, gross. You know, but he would try. And I actually was super interested. He'd just catch me at the most awful times. I fall asleep. But no, I really was interested. Like, he'd show me
Bashar
things.
movie, yeah.
I was so tired. He was on a sleep schedule where he stayed up. He worked night shift. So it'd be like 2:00 in the morning and he's showing me something so important to him and I would fall asleep. So it wasn't personal, I promise. I just wasn't used to being up that late. But anyways, back to the experience.
Remember though, so you're not going to go into it here. We're going to actually play a recording that we recorded very shortly after you had that experience. I really wanted to document while you had it fresh in your memory, everything that happened.
Right. Yeah. But leading up to it, I was meditating. Zach went back into our room and I was sitting on the couch and I was like, fuck, I got to stay in this habit of meditating because I've been a crazy bitch lately and I need to stay into this. And so I'm tired and I sit up on the couch and I just like start feeling like I want to click my left eye, right eye, and start playing around while I'm meditating because I was bored. And then...
Yeah, and I think we should just play it now. So we're going to play the recording, you guys, and we're going to interject from time to time. We're going to stop it. I'm going to put this phone, we're going to play it from my phone, actually, the account that Brittany had. And either of us if you want to hit it when you have something to say, and I will too, or you can just like look at me and I can hit it, babe. However you want to do this.
I want a spray bottle.
Like for cats?
Yeah.
Okay. We should have a spray bottle. Unfortunately, we don't have one at hand. But let's just start this.
Okay, let's do it.
So I was a day past doing a trip, and so I was still glowing a little bit, but nothing too crazy. And I decided to do a meditation before going to bed because I felt kind of crazy lately with anxiety. So I was meditating, and as I was sitting up to meditate on the couch, started noticing it beneath the lower part of my neck, left and right side underneath there, a shocking... Yeah, I was doing breathing techniques in the meditation that I saw. You have to, I'm trying to.
So I'm stopping it already because I'm just getting really self-conscious about how I fucking interrupt her constantly, very annoyingly.
Sorry. Vindication.
It's kind of cringy for me, but we're going to go right back in.
Sorry.
This could happen. I think I let her go at some point.
Don't.
Okay. Well. It's weird, but I guess it's us. So here we go, back in.
I'm an interviewer here. It's all right. I'm interviewing.
Well, good interviewers let the people talk. They don't interrupt them.
I'm not saying I'm a good interviewer.
All right, just let me do. I'm going to lose my train of thought and forget everything because I get frustrated. All right. Sorry. Okay. So I did some breathing exercises that I normally don't do. And then I started feeling a zap at the lower part of my neck, and I thought maybe my hair was up high, that it was maybe my hair was too heavy. So
spine area,
right? Right where your neck meets your spine right there, that hump. And so it was like left and right side. So I sat all the way back on the couch, and then it actually got more intense. I felt this electric shock left and right, the lower part of my neck. And so I'm meditating, and I stayed in the meditation. It got pretty deep, pretty focused. And I was kind of in the zone, not thinking. And all of a sudden, I saw like a light, like a hallway wrapping around in a vision. And there was like this tall, skinny, looked like maybe a male because it had no hair, running. And it was like blue with light shining down it, like not a consistent color, almost like metal, but blues and silvers. And it was running around this hallway in this vision, running away from me. And so I remember seeing it and opening my eyes from the meditation and was kind of like, am I seeing stuff or what? I'm not done yet. I'm not there yet. So anyway, so it was running, and I decided to close my eyes again. Then I saw it again. And so I started in my consciousness, my awareness, chasing after it. And it was running away around this corner. And finally I stopped, and it stopped. And I kind of was telepathically, in a way, feeling to it like, hey, who are you, or what are you, or something. And so then all of a sudden I pull back, and this thing turns around and runs up right to me in this vision. And I see its face. It's right in my third eye, like right in my face. And I could see it clearly, more and more and more clear. It was first like this blue face with black eyes. It was blue, but it was almost metal-like, so it had like a shine to it. So it was all these different colors, but mostly blue. And as I focused more and more and more, it started having gills. And I was feeling the shock beneath my neck through all of this. And it was so shocking because it was like so clear. It had like, it was mainly blues. And
this is like kind of scary to talk about and share because, and first of all, Zach's so hard on himself. He's got to stop. That was fucking funny. Look how cute we are. Like, that's how we really are. When we're not on here, it's like, Brittany. And I'm just like,
fucking embarrassing.
No, he's awesome.
No, when I'm like in that mode though, like, and I'm trying to control things, I just get like my voice is all high pitched and
you're a director, babe.
Right.
And but no, seeing the being was just thinking back and meditating on that. Like it freaked me out. And in all this, I remember, and I don't think I talk about this, I was freaked out, and Zach was not in the room, and yet. And so just imagine like, okay, you're just this normal mainstream, like when it comes to aliens chick, and you're seeing some kind of blue fish thing.
And it was different than just what you would see in your mind's eye, right? Like there was like an aspect of it that felt real and believable.
I felt it. Yeah. You know, I have these zaps going back and forth that were almost painful, like electricity. And on top of it, it was like I get visions for people, but some of them are way more powerful. Like I've seen a white deer that like every time I shut my eyes, it was there walking towards me. But this being had a consciousness that was scary because it was so high. Like I was scared because it was so real. So don't smoke crack.
And we're back in, ladies and gentlemen.
Started telepathically speaking to me, and I was like, what are you? And it started talking to me and telling me, I'm trying to remember as many details as I can. It's been 2 days, but it told me it was a Pleiadian. And if you know me, I don't fucking know jack shit about aliens. My boyfriend's been trying to tell me about them, and it's not that I don't believe, I just wasn't super interested. for some reason. And so this thing's telling me it's a Palladian, something like that. And I was just like, oh, okay. And it definitely looked like an alien to me, but it was like really pretty. And had no hair. It was tall, had like a black, this was mostly just his face, but it was like a black or dark navy blue suit on. And then it telepathically started telling me what it was. That then it started telling me that I'd been thinking, it started speaking to me telepathically about how I'd been thinking a lot about purpose and why am I here.
Hold on. There's something I think you're missing. Can I add? I'm sorry. I just want to make sure you're missing.
I'm like just remembering stuff. So it started talking about like why we're here, that humans focus so much on the actually like why, the specific thing of why you're here. And it was talking directly to me. It's not about why you're here. Your purpose here is to experience life, to have joy. And that is the purpose of why you're here. And your purpose is not here to save the world and raise the vibration of Earth or any kind of crazy hero shit like that. That's not what it was about. It was about just enjoying life. And that's what I need to do. And then like, I'm just like sucked in. And then all of a sudden Zach walks in and sits on the...
I think this is going to come in now, what I was going to ask you. Well, didn't it tell you you were a Palladian? That you were one of them, you're like one of us? Didn't you say you're one of
Like, yeah, around this time period, when you were walking in, it was telling me, it was telling me that I was one of them. And I was just like, well, aren't we like all one? Like I always ask that. I actually channeled David Bowie and he says shit like that. Like we're all one. I'm like, well, or something about, I don't know. I always joke when I channel with these things that we're all one, and I'm trying to figure out what they mean by that.
Go ahead. She's hitting the button.
I don't remember what I said on this.
That's why this is so fun.
I'm sitting here holding my breath and my legs bouncing up and down. And I'm like, okay, Brittany, be good in the past. Be good. So yeah, I don't know. Have we brought up?
I don't think so. This is a good, let's talk about that a tiny bit. My girlfriend channels David Bowie.
It's true, but I can't even take myself seriously. Like, it's true. And that's even weird. That's like just as random as this.
Yeah, so a lot of the stuff I had an experience with. Okay, so I have a long history with David Bowie. He's been a muse for me, an influence in my songwriting and work. And just sort of his whole persona has been, his whole chameleon-like performance thing has been important to me. And when he died, there was a whole crazy thing that happened where he released an album right before he died. And he was dying of cancer and he knew it. And so this album was like all about approaching death. And I'm listening to it because I'm like a fucking nerd fanboy about David Bowie. And I'm like listening to this album, like just fucking engrossed when it comes out. And then he dies a few days later. And it's this really emotional album that was incredibly deep and grappling with death, his own impending death that he knew was coming. And you could feel all that, but then when he died, it just sort of fucked me up so much at a time in my life where I was emotionally going through a lot of stuff, and I had never really had an experience channeling or experiencing other energies, and I had the distinct impression that I was being visited. In that week when he died, I'm like listening to his album, grieving his death, crying a lot. Like it was someone I knew close to me who died. And I am writing songs and I had this energy come to me, is what it felt like. And I distinctly felt like this is David Bowie. And I wrote a song called The Vulcan Casanova, which I'm still really proud of and love, and I don't think I've shown you that. Well, maybe I have shown you.
I think you have.
And so I just had this impression that I had been visited by the ghost of David Bowie, and it was this really strange thing. And like I connect it to my Kundalini experience that I had in 2020. It was a similar kind of energy of something else sort of coming to me. And I tell Brittany about this in the first several months of our dating, she being very sensitive to other energies. And I started showing her some of these songs on his album, videos of him grappling with his death. And, you know, I'm in Michigan at this point. She's in Atlanta. We're doing a long distance relationship thing, and I'm sending her video links of David Bowie. She watches these and she just starts saying she's channeling, or I don't know if we called it channeling, but
yeah, I hear these words that make me laugh, like channeling, like I'm channeling, guys. Like, so I'm such a practical person. So these kind of things always shock me when they happen. I try to put everything into logic, and it's unexplainable in a way, at the point we're at. So he does all this. My granddad just died, who is also British. So it was a very interesting time. And all of a sudden, a very powerful energy came forth. And it was clearly David Bowie. I knew it. I knew nothing about David Bowie really beyond the surface. And
she really didn't, you guys. Yeah.
No,
like straight up, like I knew everything about David Bowie. And so she starts channeling David Bowie.
And it was scary because there's always a fear when you get in this stuff of being wrong. And I'm just being honest, like it's the ego coming in. And at this point though, I was so possessed with the energy. It was so powerful that I was shaking. My cheeks were flush. And he just started speaking through me, and I was getting all these like downloads, or he was channeling through it, whatever it was. And it was so clear.
And I was just kind of weirdly knowing the history of David Bowie and my experience with David Bowie in a position to like confirm that this shit sounded like David Bowie, which was so wild for me. Like I felt it as David Bowie. You know, I've obsessively watched his interviews, and I knew that she knew nothing of David Bowie, and she's saying shit that just felt so much like this cheeky ass David Bowie. It was wild for me.
Yeah, and what's interesting about my relationship with David Bowie, with Zach's relationship, he's been a pivotal mediator when we choose to tap into him as a guide. And right now he's even like, I can tell he's one of these energies for some reason. I don't know if we share similar energy or him and Zach do, or whatever it is. I can just think about him and feel him. It's very weird because some beings, I don't have that. And with him, I do. And it's like right now he's going tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, strikes the clock. And then he 5 strokes and then says something about a donkey. And like, I'm just like, what's going on here?
So much. This is so good for me.
Yeah.
I feel before we get too far afield, I think we should get back into this.
Yeah. Aliens.
But aliens, back to the alien account.
Sorry.
I'm a Pleiadian. I was just like, oh, okay. And it said no. And more in your traditional sense, what you understand as directly, like you are one of us in a traditional sense. So and at that time, I'm going to be all over the place because I don't remember the timeline of everything, how it was saying, so I don't want to miss any details, but it did. So I was just like, holy fuck. So Zach's sitting down next to me at this point, I believe, and I was in shock because like it was such a deep trance of channeling. And I was telling him what I was feeling. I felt this shock, and he wasn't surprised by it. He was like, oh yeah, that's the experience I had. It's the plate. Plait. So, and he's like, I had that when I had my experience with the gray potentially. And I couldn't believe it. When you had the Kundalini.
Just a real quick aside about the plate. This is a concept from, I believe, reality transurfing, which we may get into at some point. but it's just an energy that comes in the back of your neck and your spine, the way Brittany described her experience. And that's what I had in my Kundalini experience, and it was interesting. I didn't know about the plate when I had my experience, and then I stumbled upon reality transurfing shortly thereafter, and it confirms that, oh, there's this thing that kind of comes in the back of your spine, and that's what the plate is. We're back in.
Oh, my bad. That was a lucid dream. Yeah. So Zach had a similar experience. So I knew at that point I wasn't making this shit up. So I questioned that probably every 60 seconds. Am I making this shit up? Because that's like you're experiencing something and, we imagine a lot of shit, so it's hard to know what's real. And so at this point, I knew I wasn't making this shit up. And then then it just started telling me shit. And it was usually, and then Zach was asking questions and the downloads were just coming in. There wasn't any, it was a live stream of information. There wasn't any, just because there was pressure and I was scared and I was nervous because I didn't know if it was right or wrong. It didn't matter. It was coming in very clear. And eventually we got to the point, it was just telling me about purpose. It was telling me about, later on it ended up telling me about who I am, telling me, it called me the mother.
You were like high up.
I was very high up. I was one of the original mothers. I don't know, procreating their people. He said their people. He didn't say humans. He said their people. I was one of the original mothers.
You remember you asked me at one point, you're like, what do you think you are?
Well, Zach asked me, you asked me, what do you think I am? You did ask.
I didn't ask you to ask. You were like, you'd gotten some indication of something, and you're like, what do you think you are? Maybe I did ask that.
Yeah, you did. You asked me, what does it say I am? And I was just like so nervous because I always have this fear when I'm channeling, my ego getting in the way. And it was so clear. It was like quiet for a minute. And then this image, no. First it said, he knows what he is. He's hiding.
What do you think you are?
Yeah, it clearly said he's holding. It was like it was telling me he knows. It's like a test. He knows what he is. And so I smiled and I looked at him and I was just like, it's saying you know what you are. And he did not want to tell me, and I didn't know any of this. I don't know any of this shit. And then all of a sudden I saw this flash on the right side of my brain. Like it was right here on the right side, my right eye and my third eye, like vision. And it was a green energy like being, but not like it was a mantis, obviously, but it didn't look like a praying mantis here. It was very different. It was more hunched over, and it doesn't look like a praying mantis like it does here. It was very it was like a bigger, I don't know how to describe it, but anyway, and then all of a sudden it said, it did, but it was smaller and it had this bigger body. But it was like an older one or something. It was just big and ugly, no offense. And so pretty greens, but then it said, he's a mantis. And so I look at him and I'm channeling at this point. It's like my heart's, I'm like, you're a mantis. And then your eyes got this big. You're like, I've never told you that.
I had a whole bunch of synchronicities in 2018 through 2020 that were very crazy, that I had just started getting into so I had an experience, a synchronicity with an actual mantis, praying mantis, right around the time I started talking to my guides, literally almost in the week. There was this because you never see praying mantis. How many times have you seen a praying mantis out in the world?
Yeah, not.
And it was at Planet Fitness in this
circular thing,
circular brick structure. So just a weird random place to see a praying mantis, and I just sat with it and took a bunch of pictures and just kind of I don't know, there's something about their energy that I've always really connected with, and I just want to be close to it, kind of be with it. And then, but I couldn't make any connection to that's when I was starting to even believe in spirit guides and communicate with blah blah blah. Kind of doing some minor channeling. Then 2020 happened, and I had the Kundalini experience with the plate going through you did, and I channeled full on crazy, and then I could just like ask spirit whenever I wanted to know anything, and so I went way down the full woo rabbit hole, like full on, because I would just ask, well, what about Sasquatch? What about like these aliens? What about these? And it was like always the most bizarre shit was real, you know? And then at some point I learned about the mantids/mantis beings in some podcasts, and they're pretty crazy and sort of obscure, and it just really resonated with me. And just a lot of the stories about the mantis beings were, it was like kind of a piece of the whole thing that made me really believe, because it was just, there was something about the specificity of the role they play.
And just to clarify, you never told me this.
No, I never told you any of this shit.
Yeah.
And there's like some crazy, let's you watch Interview with Extraterrestrials.
Yeah.
You're gonna
So like that's the thing, like what's so crazy about this is like Zach's very like private about that stuff, because we're building that trust still, and he knows.
I rarely talked about aliens with you for a long time.
No, because he thought I didn't want to hear about it or something. And
Obsessed. Yeah, since 2020.
yeah, and like I knew he was, but I didn't have the same passion at that point. And so like I'm still in shock. I'm still like, holy fuck, my world's blown up. It's like another 2020 for me. I'm like, holy fuck, everything I thought I knew is 100% not what I thought I knew. But anyway, so it got deeper. There's a lot of details. I can't remember everything, but it started talking about his people, the mantids, that I'm trying to think. It sucks because I've read a lot of stuff after this, so I'm having to pick up like what I remember, and that's hard. So I remember they talked about like our people, the Pleiadians and the Mantids had a treaty, and that for a while they've been going back and forth with it. It was to come together, and that the Pleiadians were very much so kind of about joy and about bringing joy and happiness. And then the Mantids were more about changing and creating things and creating worlds. And so...
By the way, I just have to say, my like original experience of when you had this, like my reaction to it is coming back, which is just like, ladies and gentlemen, she didn't know anything about the cosmology of aliens. And there's a whole body of experiencers that have come forward to talk about these mantid beings. This is not just some crazy thing that I had happen. There's a whole bunch of experiences that talk about this race, species, or whatever of being. And there's no way she could have known a lot of this stuff.
No, because I think he would have already popped the question if I knew all this stuff. And and I was secretly holding back that I was obsessed with ETs and following intellectuals on podcasts. He'd been like, oh my God, my dream girl.
I never told her that I secretly thought I was a hybrid mantis being. I never mentioned this to her. So when she tells me this, I am like kind of freaking out, because it's a confirmation of something that I was really kind of deeply suspicious of and ashamed of, in a way that I thought that I was this mantis being, that I had all these synchronicities that happened when I was sort of in the beginning of my awakening.
And imagine how that feels. Like we talk about the island of your own. Imagine having all these woo downloads about yourself that you can't just go out in the public today and talk about with anyone without some kind of shame aspect, or that look where it's like, oh, that's cool. Because I definitely got that after I started telling everybody I knew about this, because I just don't hold back. I'm like a kid. I got the looks. And so like you finally get all this stuff confirmed. It had to feel like...
Well, it's validation.
Yeah.
And at the very least, she's like reading my energy, but I really felt like, because I know you are psychic and pretty powerfully psychic. So, I mean, I guess the interpretation could be she was just like reading things that were in my mind.
You didn't know about that. Were you thinking I was a Pleiadian?
No.
So that's the part that wouldn't add up with that.
And she knew all kinds of stuff about the Pleiadians, and she hadn't done
mother
the deep
and
dive.
all that stuff.
She hadn't done the deep dive, folks. This was all just taking psychedelics,
microdosing,
and fucking getting all this. All right, going back in.
They butt heads a little bit with the Pleiadians because it's just like they had such...
In abductions and experiencer cases, mantis beings.
Yeah, in the background.
Managerial roles, they're like the ones that like everyone's listening to.
Right, and the Pleiadians are kind of like a little bit like, it's a little bit of a buzzkill maybe. Like, so I don't know. It was just kind of like there was a little bit of a friction. Well, it was like a friction because they're so opposite. Like
high energy, high vibration, spiritual, magical.
Well, it was basically giving me all these downloads about my personality and how I don't need to change anything about myself. Like these were attributes of the people, and that Zach, it was just describing basically how our relationship's been. It's been the relationship between the two different types of ETs. It was describing they were very opposite with their missions, but they were all working together for kind of the same thing. And there was a peace treaty. They came together. The Galactic Federation kind of finally got them to come together to come down here and incarnate and come together to work together because I'm remembering now, the Mantids needed the balance, and so did the Pleiadians. It's like they needed each other to kind of balance out. And the Pleiadians were going to be like that, like in my situation, the inspiration that fueled the tank for him to be able to handle it here and do what he needed to do. And he would kind of ground me from floating off to the sky and never getting anything done. And so it was like this treaty type deal where we needed each other. And it was giving me advice that we need to stop trying to change each other, because that's part of the reason these groups probably didn't get along, is they kept trying to they're so different. So they really had to work together and honor, and it was just giving me this instant download of our romantic relationship, of needing to honor that he, as this mantid being, really had to be the way, like this being cynical and finding, it said that they kind of find problems in the world that need to be fixed to bring unity, and that things to create new things, the mantis beings. And so that's something I always kind of felt in my mind. I was like, I didn't understand, because Pleiadians aren't about that. They're more about not finding problems, more about just bringing smiles, but not just that, not just surface level. It's just too much to go into. It's a lot of shit. And so we kept trying to change each other, because they're about good vibes, and they're also about help. They are what's the A word? They are ambassadors for new aliens coming here to the planet that have never been here before. They help them kind of get on their feet and be able to handle the vibrations here. And it also said, it made a cheeky, I don't think it was meant to be a joke. This thing was very serious. There was no joking. This thing was very neutral in essence. It wasn't like us where we have ups and downs. It was very much so said that many men, not human men wanted to do this mission with me. So that's alluding to that there was some type of contract, and that they could not handle my energy here on Earth. They wouldn't be able to handle me. So I don't know if it was like his type people or what couldn't handle it, because I'm like a bull in a china shop here, because my vibrations with the different vibrations of Earth just aren't very conducive. So it's hard.
Is this hard for you?
It is. I'm a little shy right now, but It was funny because I forgot a lot about this. Like I forgot about the part where it was talking about, it did say a lot of men wanted to sign up for this contract. And I don't know if it was like this romanticized thing necessarily, but they were trying to match those polar energies. And it did say that they couldn't handle my energy. So I actually took it. It wasn't a put down. I
can confirm.
Yeah, I'm a lot. That's what was making me laugh.
In the best way.
We're both intense.
Yeah.
And so,
in different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think like it's weird because our cortisol's always going off like with our intense energies, but it's weird because I understand you more. Like it's on some level, like the world would say this is wrong and not healthy. And it feels that way a lot of the time, but at the same time, it feels familiar.
Yeah.
In the chaos. I don't know.
Yeah. I think we have 6 minutes left. Do you want to try to plow through?
Yeah.
Hard, and males wouldn't be able to handle me. So they paired me up with Zach, and he was a unique energy that would be able to we'd be able to handle each other. And he's also a older version of their people. He'd been around. He's very high up. He's like a grandfather. I just sensed it. It didn't say this. I just sensed it. He was like a very high up. So was I. So we had to kind of match each other in that. Not in an ego way, but it was pretty powerful. It was constant downloads, and I could not turn it off at one point. And I'll try to write down and remember other things as it comes up.
Anything else you can remember at all? There was so much that happened.
It just kept flowing out of me. Like it was just it was showing me the galaxy and like all these it was showing me the lizard people. Like they weren't bad. They just had low resources. They had limited resources and they were scared. So they were trying to use control and power to like here on Earth, and
also known as the reptilians to some / Dracos in the ufology world, but back in.
They're not like bad reptilians. They showed me that the Greys
Are drones oftentimes?
he called them puppets. But they use them to do different aliens use them to do things. That's what they showed me. Different aliens would use them to do things.
She didn't know anything about this. This is a repeated concept that's pretty advanced in the ufology, like only the most, like that you were able to even pick this aspect up. It's just really, it confirms it for me. Are you okay? Yeah? Okay. Sorry. We're going back in. Are you uncomfortable?
No.
Do you guys buy it?
No, I think what it is like, I was trying to connect with you earlier over something sweet, and this is kind of like a relationship podcast, and you were just like, we got 6 minutes left, let's hit the play button. And it's just like, for me, no, it's okay. I don't think you do it on purpose. It's just I can't connect with you a lot of times, and I have like a moment, and I'm not trying to make you feel bad. It's hard. I'm very sensitive. It's probably hard to be with me. It's like, I don't know. It just felt kind of icky, but it's cool.
I'm sorry. I think
part
of what's going on, I should just say, there is a background that we sort of broached in our last podcast that sort of keeps coming up, and there's a dynamic between Brittany and I that we're trying to break the cycle of, and I think we're doing a great job, but it still sort of persists at times. And right now in particular, during this Mercury retrograde, I am very offline sometimes. And I will say, I think I was just trying to get through the rest of this because my energy feels low. And I think part of me is like, I'm just like battling through.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. Yeah.
And I do know that like after this, I really want to talk about us and how this connects to us, if possible. But I apologize for.
No, it's okay. I hope we can edit this out.
I think it's kind of a good moment in a way, though, too. I mean, it's a vulnerable moment.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm sorry, though, that you were trying to connect and you felt shut down.
No, it's fine.
All right. Back in.
Crazy? You didn't know shit about
I don't know.
all this mythology.
No, I am like
I do know this stuff, so I could confirm this shit as it came in.
that he was confirming it the whole time, and I'm in shock. I don't even believe the shit coming out of my mouth.
Stories overlap with the information you get.
Yeah, I can't even believe the shit coming out of my mouth, but I believed it. That's what I was in shock. I was literally experiencing shock as it was coming out because I was like, holy fuck. Like, what world do we live in? But it was...
What it's like when you have your alien coming out.
Yeah, so like I'll try to remember other details, but once he finally went to bed, we were all excited and it was like, okay, now I'm into this. So I'm sitting on the couch and he's like, are you coming down from channeling? He was kind of worried about me because one time it was hard for me. My heart would start racing with David Bowie. And
by the way, David Bowie is a mantis.
oh yes, it said that David Bowie was a mantis being. That was one thing. And yeah,
I love how crazy it sounds.
Yeah, even a psychic said me and him are way out there. So if that says anything. Yeah, so then as I'm laying on the couch, he finally goes, he goes to bed and I'm laying on the couch and my heart's racing. I'm so geeked up. My eyes even kind of twitching. I'm just so geeked up and high from the high vibration of this thing's energy channeling through me.
You were saying something about how like the grays. Okay, tell this thing. I'm ready.
Yeah, so I'm laying on the couch and all of a sudden I feel a tingling in the front of my frontal lobe. It was like a tingling feeling. And I was like, now what the fuck's gonna happen? You know? And I'm laying on the couch and I feel down my spinal cord a warm sensation all the way down to my tailbone, up and down, like a slow massage. And they told me, it was like multiples of them at this point, I believe. It was like, we're healing you. And then it went to my brain and I'd feel tingles. We're healing your chakras. No, they couldn't before now because my vibration, they couldn't be around me because my vibration was not high enough to be conducive for them to do their work.
Probably I feel like the psilocybin might have helped bring you up into...
Yeah. I think that, yeah, definitely that.
One of the things, you know?
Yeah, and my control stuff. But this whole thing we went through this past month has a lot to do with the breakthrough so that I could get to this point. Anger, I've always been told in spirituality, anger is the breakthrough to the next level of evolution. Anger, it's like stages of grief are very similar to the stages of enlightenment. Anger is a beautiful, hard stage that right after it is an amazing evolution. And so like, I'm still not there yet, but I guess I'm there enough that that thing talked to me. And I also was glowing. I'm sure that has something to do with it, but it was a crazy experience. And it says stuff about Atlantis. We were in Atlantis. There was mention of that. It was just talking about like my mission here on Earth is not to worry so much about what I'm going out to do. It's just about don't ever stop going against what you're about. It's not about focusing on bad things ever. It's things that don't bring me joy will hurt me. They physically hurt my body because my people are not about that. It is literally about finding joy in everything you can. And also with people who are going through hard times, raising up their vibration quickly. It's just raising vibrations everywhere you go. And that eventually you'll evolve to a place where your energy is so healing that people come around you and it's just like healing. But Zach, it gave me a lot of insight into him. I just understood so much about him because everything that I've probably been trying to change about him or he'd been trying to change about me, it was just part of our nature. But he was supposed to, they said it'd be a grounding force and me being kind of floaty. And so it was pretty cool.
I love it.
Good work. And we're back in. That's it.
Yay.
Made it. So what's your takeaway right now regarding how this applies to us in our relationship, being that this is a relationship podcast and we're entitling this episode Alien Love?
Well, like, first of all, it's kind of sucks because they never, like, I've been wondering if they were ever going to come back. And, like, I feel intuitively like the viewers, like, thinking about that right now. Like, did they ever come back? No, they haven't. I don't know why. And weird. It's weird. I've, like, tried to tap in, and when it happened, I wasn't trying. So it's, like, a really weird thing. But I could tap into other people's fucking aliens. What happened to mine? No, I'm joking.
On the last psilocybin journey, you did have a moment that connected back to this. And I think it felt different, but...
Oh, yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Do you want to describe?
So I finally went on a bigger trip, bigger than microdosing. It was the biggest one I've ever been on. It was... I don't know what you would call it. I'm new to this world.
I mean, it was a threshold dose. She really actually, the other ones were more microdoses, subtle or energetic shifts, but she was like seeing geometric shit and went places and kind of met her guides, which was crazy.
Yeah, I met my guides. Like, I saw them. I was like, hey guys. Oh, there you are, little buddies. And then, like, David Bowie took me on this like crazy energetic magic carpet ride.
What did he look like?
He had it was like a dark, was it a lion or a cat mask?
Cat mask, I think
but it was
said.
Dark, and it was kind of stoic. And it was very unlike him, what I had experienced. But it was crazy because he swooped in all. I was just thinking, I wonder what it would be like to think of David Bowie on, like, I was trying to control the experience. And all of a sudden it was like he came in harder than ever and just took me on this ride.
Kind of a magic carpet ride of sorts in a way.
I could show you the world. Let's dance. So it was cool. But anyway, towards the end of the trip, I saw like geometric mantid heads in this like circle. It was really pretty. And then in the middle was like a Pleiadian, and it was like all fractally and like geometric.
Kind of being birthed by the prism of mantids.
Yeah. Like it was like the Pleiadian was in the inner circle being birthed by all these little mantid heads.
Didn't you feel like you were possibly a hybrid of mantids?
At that time it felt like those were like my parents or part of me or something. I don't remember. I just remember I was like, I just understood it because I was a part of it. Like when you're in it, you're like, everything's one.
Yeah.
But no, I felt like I was like a hybrid of all those things. But for all I know, it could be just like the way it is. It's showing the different layers of evolution. I don't know.
Or just archetypes. It could be an interaction with Jung's archetypal world, the collective unconscious.
Could be I have a little mantid in me now and changed everything up.
So this seems to have incredibly important implications for us, for our relationship, even if this weren't true, because I think it's when you have these kinds of experiences, it's easy to doubt yourself and wonder if any of it's true. So even if it weren't true, there seemed to be such
parallels?
Yeah, parallels and implications about our relationship. And I think that's what I sort of wanted to talk about, is that
yeah. No, I mean, definitely, like, in regards, if you guys have known, if you could follow us around like Jiminy Cricket on our shoulder, but not give us advice would be nice. And so if you follow us around, you would see, like, that, Zach's very different than me and different than I when it comes to when we met music, and his motivation for everything was very colorful and deep, and everything had meaning and color. And I'm kind of scattered all over the place. I'm like at Sam's on Saturday afternoon tasting all the different brands of samples, and I didn't spend time.
But you make it look good.
Thank you. And so it just fit in our relationship, because we would butt heads over music tastes and all these different things. It was constantly trying to change each other. Like, this is the right way. No, this is the right way. And
which we still kind of struggle with at times, these sort of control issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I do feel like the archetype of the mantis does really resonate with me. And thinking about you as a Pleiadian is really kind of incredible and gave me new insight about you being kind of like love and light, nurturing mother, and just kind of all the beauty of like your connective tendencies with, human beings and helping, oftentimes young women in your chair in the salon, and just like all that stuff seemed so Pleiadian. Like I knew sort of about the Pleiadians, in, experiencer, UFO experiencer circles. Like, I just went, like I said, I did the deep dive in 2020, and there's just like a lot of podcasts that talk about the Pleiadians, and you just seem like a Pleiadian, babe.
Thanks.
It's good.
Okay.
It's good. It's
Just
sexy.
making sure.
Like a sexy Pleiadian.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I may have to role play with that later.
And the mantis beings are oftentimes, I mentioned it in that super high-pitched voice on the recording, but like oftentimes come up in abduction experiences or experiencer experiences as like the managers. They're kind of orchestrating things, or they have grays with them that they're sort of like having do kind of like their bidding, but they're the ones sort of usually like creating things in control. That interviews with extraterrestrials that we watched, with the people who, I was gonna say, kind of channel the mantis beings, but they interestingly they're very playful too, and oftentimes connected with music. So there's this interesting dichotomy in the mantis beings. It's very complex, that it just resonates with me on so many levels, and makes sense for David Bowie too, that he would be a mantis being. I don't know.
Yeah. And you just see how Zach's lighting up. Like it's really, I think it's hard in this world, from my understanding with what I know now about mantids, it can feel very lonely. You're dealing with a very high vibrational being. And if you're dealing with hybrids here, whether they are or they're not in they've incarnated in these bodies, they're rather new here from my understanding. And Pleiadians have been here since the get-go. And so it's harder for them to fit in and understand. And they're looking, I would think if you're a mantid incarnate, you may not fit in very well with people. People's dialect, the way they talk, it could seem very harsh. And these are things I've heard Zach say for a while. It's just it feels like you're an alien here. And I would think that would be a feeling of someone, possibly, if this is all true, this would fit that. And so Pleiadians, I just resonate so strongly with them. And his story, Zach's story, if you see his face like really connecting to this, because it's like, okay, I'm not messed up.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not broken.
Yeah.
This is just new here.
I've always felt like an outsider, and I've had various explanations through the years, like maybe I have Asperger's, or maybe this, maybe that. I'm definitely always been a misfit, and like I'm just sort of acting here and playing different characters. And so just the story of the mantids and how they're much more kind of hive beings, collective hive beings that sort of, again, have world kind of creation roles, and like, have these complex personalities that are also playful and like to dance, apparently. And
thank God, I love to dance.
Big fan of the dancing. But there's just the complexity of that archetype, and the synchronicity that I had with that actual mantis, praying mantis, right when I was sort of waking up and, listening to the Paul Selig channels.
Like, mother?
Yeah, right.
Are you my mom?
Yeah, I mean, and my whole feeling is that the universe is fractal, and so if there's an actual praying mantis here, they're sort of connected to the collective energy of mantis beings.
Yeah.
Like a smaller fractal relationship, and this is kind of talked about sometimes, that when people communicate with actual mantids, they have synchronicities with praying mantises. So that was a very confirming experience for me, and I don't know. And again, maybe none of this shit's real. Who knows?
What if nothing's in the quantum field? Like, I hate the term real. Like, in the close inner circles, the word real just doesn't exist. Like, it does and it doesn't. Like, and apparently in quantum physics, we deal with, the quantum field. Everything exists, and nothing's real. Everything's real. Anything can be. Everything could be, would be, is. And so, like, you're not real. I'm not real. Or you are real and I'm real. The mantids aren't real. Everything's...
I love this.
If it's in your imagination, folks, it's real. And I know you got some dark shit there. Guess what? The boogeyman's real.
I love this multi-world theory of kind of like multiple timelines, and that kind of like all of everything that you can imagine is real on some timeline. And there's just a lot of ways you can go with this, but what if some of these beings are us in various future timelines coming back to communicate with us?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Future, like, highly evolved beings that are like our future incarnations that like are outside of time, experience sort of higher vibration, kind of like can go back through to any time.
Yeah, I remember asking it though, because I'm like, okay, I'll even with my tarot cards be like, okay, none of this higher self bullshit. We're talking about 3D shit here, okay? We're going to use 3D language. You'll say, I am you. The thing was like, I am you, or you're one of us. And I'm like, okay, what shit are we talking about? Like 5D, we're all one,
right.
Or am I, and it was like, you're part of our family, you're our species,
it's
whatever.
More literal.
It was more literal, speaking to my language here in the 3D. And it was speaking the same for Zach.
And I'm embarrassed to say it, but I tend to lean to, and of course none of us know, that a lot of this stuff really is literally going on.
Yes. In the 3D, it has manifested, folks. Yeah. And I believe a lot of this, I know we have to loop back to relationships, but a lot of this is manifesting to where we could see it because the vibration, and this is what I'm feeling, is the vibration Earth is raising, is therefore the dimensions are able to peek through. From what they were showing me, we weren't allowed to get through with your vibration.
Yes.
So Earth Gaia is raising. So now dimensions they were always here.
We're now able to perceive things that were always here.
Yes.
Overlapping.
So let's go back to people aren't seeing the stuff about aliens. It wasn't showing up, or ETs. And all of a sudden it is. I think like you're saying, certain people could see it and certain people didn't. And we've talked about this.
Right at a time when so many people in the woo community, in various even religions, have talked about this time as a time where we're going through the great transformation, the awakening, and
dun, dun, dun.
Raising our vibrations, and now this alien shit kind of comes to light. Like, in a real credible way that even our most credible news sources can't ignore, and the government's coming out and saying, yes, this has been something that we've been sort of keeping, under wraps.
Yeah, and it's like, and I think we'll use the term in our, Zach and I's house of higher beings. That's what we like, because we're all beings. We're human beings, higher beings, bleeding beings, manta beings. Like, everything is a being.
Yeah.
We are consciousness being, a verb, a noun, doing things. And so they are no different than us. They're just higher vibrating. They're not better than us. They're just vibrating at a different frequency.
Yeah.
So it's not like
I think even our knowledge of should we be threatened by these? That could be something that someone new at this would be thinking. Is there something to worry about by the reptilians, or we get into the Orions that are more service to self? We can go into that later maybe, but
the Ra teachings, I love it.
Raw. But no, I'm just saying, is there anything to worry about, guys? Is this Independence Day and we need to go find Will Smith's phone number?
It depends on what we align to.
Yeah, I mean,
potentially, at least.
Yeah, that's no fun. Come on.
What timeline do we want to pull? You know?
Can we switch?
Shit's getting weird.
Can we switch?
Maybe
can we do
multiple timelines if you're high enough?
We can hop.
Yeah.
We can go, okay, they're about to destroy
Let's
the
try
Earth.
this one.
Yeah, no, but what I learned from this though, because I'm very relationship focused, my passion is...
Let's bring it back, rein it in.
Yeah, as a Pleiadian, I'm just going to go ahead and take on this role. Even when I channel and I do tarot or anything, there's some channelers and some psychics that focus on your higher self is saying this for you. That's never been where I've ever been guided with my abilities. It's always been a human psyche in the 3D right now. I can relate to you as you still identify you as your ego. And that's where I've been channeling. And so the Pleiadians work with humans and they work with the human psyche. And that's my passion. I love it, but I'm funneling in guidance as needed to human beings. And so, whereas I think mantids are more up with the higher selves having a beer. You know, I'm just joking.
Collective, hive, like structurally kind of trying to like corral.
Yeah. I heard they destroy universes too when I was channeling.
Interesting. Well, I think there are dark, probably, you know, any hive being must have a shadow.
No, I don't think it's bad though. I think it's like we see death so...
And destruction is bad.
We see things as bad and death is bad.
Yeah.
Higher beings I don't think they just get it. They remember shit. They remember, okay, I gotta do this again. Cool.
And like maybe destruction isn't destruction. It's just like playing with clay.
Well, look at a garden.
It's infinite.
We row up a garden to plant a new one because the soil is bad or what.
And I think if you're a being that like recognizes infinite spirit, then it might actually just not be bad if it's you know, there's no such thing as death. And you know it.
Sounds like an Orion concept. That's how they justify. No, I'm kidding. I'm just playing. I'm really kidding. But so like in regards to control, I think that was the biggest lesson with Zach and I. And we kept trying to control each other and there was some kind of treaty. That's why
I love that we are talking about the Galactic Federation.
The Galactic Federation, ladies and gentlemen.
Episode 3. Getting real fucking weird. Right out of the gates.
Yeah, I've heard of this is something I will admit I have heard of the Galactic Federation, and it was a friend of mine using it in not in the nicest way, kind of joking around. And I didn't have a ball in the game. But I got information about them, and it was very interesting because there was a peace treaty amongst these two individual beings. So when the mantids came here, the Pleiadians were helping them. It's not that the mantids weren't these higher beings, but here on Earth, in this, let's call it the hell realm, that's not how I've ever viewed it. But for them, it probably is like that. So for the Pleiadians, we've acclimated and we've just love humans and we know how to make joy out of hell.
Well, it sounds like you guys have been here for longer.
Yeah, we have. And
fixtures here.
Right. And so we don't see it as much as a hell realm. We're kind of sick in the head. We kind of like the hell. And that seems about right. So
that sounds right to me.
Yeah. I like the pain. So it's like we're supposed to be as guides to the energy so you can create and change the world. It's like, welcome to Earth, guys. This is sex. It feels good. Yes, it's ego. Yes, it's a little bit
Oh dear.
You know,
are we
like
gonna get into this?
No, but I'm just saying like all the things that seem trivial.
Yeah.
Because you still have an essence of this higher thing. It's like, no, enjoy yourself. Enjoy the lower vibrations a little bit. Like this is part of what's going to inspire and fuel you while you still have a brain attached to your head.
And she really serves this purpose in my life. That's the craziest thing. She's saying things that like we can see manifest in a relationship before this download.
Yeah.
Right? Like this dynamic.
We argued over a lot of these things because it would be like, we both were right. There was nothing wrong here. I was about the enjoyment and the experience here, because if you don't do that, you're going to be miserable here. And then
this is the kind of stuff that I learned from Brittany, even though like I resist,
learn a lot from him.
and I'm taken kind of kicking and screaming every time. But this is the thing that's being shown to me most powerfully, I think, through you, is just this idea of being present and enjoying, and that the human experience is okay. It's not scary. It's not dangerous. It's like, just love it. And sometimes it's hard for me.
No, but he's, and what I'm learning from this archetype or real being mantis, I don't know.
To it, yes,
but what I'm learning is humility, embracing a hive type mentality.
Ooh, she physically cringed.
Like, I enjoy playing in the realm of the ego. I enjoy, like, this last trip taught me that there is a pleasure in separation. And I think you have to come to acceptance within yourself that there is a pleasure, but there's also hell in that, and destruction and so many things. And like, but what I'm learning from Zach is seeing the bigger picture and things. I can't help I live in the present moment, and I'm a butterfly in that way. Like, I'm like, love, experience, happiness, joy, let's do this. And
I'm a curmudgeon mantis hipster. Fuck.
No, but he brings structure and he brings strategy and plans. And I used to think like,
you were highly suspicious.
We both sus. Sus as fuck.
Sus.
We're sus. We got to get with it. Don't be a Karen. But I'm just saying, like, even if I don't listen to anything you say,
which happens
often, and same. So no, sure. I mean, no, I'm so worse. Like, obviously.
I don't know.
But
we're both.
But there's
enough.
What do you call it, the cellular thing? It's
not gene. Oh, you're talking about epigenetics.
So like over time being around someone, mirroring.
Oh, mirror neurons.
So I've noticed being around you, I'm picking up a lot of good habits that I didn't have.
Science. So we're coming out of woo for a second, you guys. This is a scientifically proven thing, basically, that people have mirror neurons, they're called. And a lot of people think that this is what empathy comes from, but it's essentially how we learn behavior, apparently, which is that, like, when we were like apes or cavemen, like when someone, built a fire and the kid was like right there, they're like mirroring, without even knowing it, they're mirroring the behavior in their mind by observing it. And they're like learning, they're like downloading, like their mirror neurons just automatically do it. And it's kind of like one of the theories about why behavior is contagious and how sort of empathy is facilitated.
Exactly. So take that concept, and I know we got to wrap it up soon, but take that concept and we listen to the guidance from that download, which was, I don't need to change you. You do your thing, I do my thing. Then we bring them.
And we're very different, and we have very different purposes here on this planet, and they're both beautiful, and they're not at odds necessarily.
They don't have to.
It seems like it.
Right. And and what I was saying is, like, if I just let you be you and I let go to that, and you let me be me and stop trying to change me, and vice versa, whatever we're not blocking that we actually are observing, we will start picking it up and balancing naturally without having to try. And that was a download I got.
Mirror neurons.
Right. And I got that download a little while back, that I don't need to try to like hyper focus to learn from you, and vice versa. Like, we naturally are going to start. And I've noticed myself like cleaning shit.
100%.
And caring about certain things.
And me, like, feeling emotions.
Oh, he's like Zach's.
And being more in the moment and going with the flow and loving people.
No, I mean, he's great. When I tell the ladies in my chair about how he is, they're just like, you're so lucky.
Really?
That I'll tell.
Little do they know.
I don't talk bad about you to people.
No.
Often. Like, I just don't. I'm a lot like
often.
you. No, I'm very, even when I'm mad, I'm very this is where he's coming from. Most likely, this is where I'm coming from, because I'm really looking for a solution for it to work.
Yeah.
I don't talk shit like other people. I want it to work. Have I done it before? Yes. But I'm meaning mostly I want it to work. But I was just saying we don't need to control each other or change each other. Just observe each other in awareness, and whatever we need to pick up, we will.
And over a year since we've known each other, which we're approaching our 1 year anniversary soon, and we're celebrating it this weekend, which is going to be fun. We're going to do a podcast from a
haunted home in Savannah, bed and breakfast.
That sort of one of the places we're going to visit, we believe, on our tour. If we visit the old pink house, there's this old pink house. There's a love story connected with that, like a ghosts and love. So that's how we're going to tie the episode in, hopefully, to our theme of different kinds of love. Ghost love. This one's alien love. The next one might be ghost love. But over the year that since we've known each other, approaching our 1 year anniversary, I really think that even though sometimes it doesn't seem like it when we're in our toxic spirals, we really are starting along this journey of our mirror neurons, kind of stabilizing us and coming into more collective brackery, as we like to call it, energy. And I do see this happening, even though it's painful for our little baby egos, our control freaks. But I do see it happening. I mean, I don't know if you agree.
I do. I feel more accepting what is. At first I thought, are we just like getting used to self-preservation and it's just feeling normal now? Or is this acceptance? And when we're not spiraling, I would say it's acceptance.
Yeah.
Because when I'm not spiraling with you, I admire the fuck out of you. Like what you do, the energy you have that I don't have.
That's so sweet, yeah.
Yeah, like the things he invents and he does, and how he thinks about others as he's doing it, and the empathy and all those things. And even him speaking on this podcast earlier, it wasn't him trying to control me. That's the thing I used to think. What it is with Zach is, from what I'm learning, and this is the new stuff I'm picking up, is like he's fucking excited. And the man's a genius. I'm going to say it. I know it makes you cringe. He's smart.
Right back at
and
you,
his,
babe.
Thank you. I know. No, I'm kidding. No,
a genius
but
in your own right. You're a Pleiadian genius.
Thank you. I was just saying that his mind moves so fast, and so it's like you get excited about something, you think about like, you're just like, oh, wait. No, so it's not.
I think I cringe because it does feel, when I hear that, like a little bit of a little boy energy, like on Christmas. Like, talk about this. Let's talk. Hey, Brittany, don't forget this. Da, da, da. Like, how about this? How about this?
But isn't that the problem with growing up?
Yeah.
We're trying to get back there. Even Christ said, be like the children. Look at the children. Like,
did he say that?
Yes. Like,
what
that was one of his... Be like,
Go, JC.
Come on. Who's in the house? Yeah, no, it's true. We look at these kids, they're in the moment. They're just little feral, rude motherfuckers, but they're,
real.
They're real. They're
Zoomers,
authentic.
The Zoomers and the Alpha. The Alpha generation. I do feel like there's something where they're less
considerate. No, I'm kidding.
No, I was going to say something positive.
Oh boy.
They just don't give a shit in a good way, I think, but sometimes in a maybe immature way, but they're not adults yet. So that's it.
No,
well,
I think we have an empathy.
But I mean, the alphas aren't.
This is like another episode. We have an empathy epidemic. That's one thing. You add empathy in there, they're awesome.
An empathy epidemic. This could be a podcast episode. Empathy epidemic.
Oh, God.
It's a good title.
Yeah.
Empathy epidemic. I like it.
Yeah. But this was fun.
This was fun. And I think we're going to do our outro. And, we're going to cue the music.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to do it OG live style. Basically, come follow us on all the places. epicloveweddingfilms.com, Epic Love Wedding Films on Instagram and Facebook, and
Epic Love Wedding Hair and Makeup on Facebook and Instagram as well.
All the places.
All the places.
And we're going to be having a YouTube channel and other things coming. If you stay tuned, we have a newsletter that we just started, so people can kind of keep up with our stories as we, maybe do some more vanilla shit with, not in a bad way. I'm not sneering, but like we're gonna be interviewing our couples, because we do work in the wedding industry, and we're gonna be interviewing wedding professionals, all kinds of stuff that hopefully we're going to still get a little weird and allow people to be themselves and kind of tell love stories in different ways, but it's not always going to be this weird. Maybe we can't help it.
I'll bring it out in them. Everybody's got a little weird.
So thank you for listening, and join us next time.
Thank you so much for being here. This was great.
I think outros are a little awkward.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with my hands.
Yeah, I don't really know what to do with what I'm saying, but I was trying to just
drop the mic.
Fuck yeah.
Little by little, you wear me down.
Answer